Donald Trump just provided us a glimpse into some inner workings of his informational metabolism system. I'm studying Socionics. My name is Lev. I think this is very interesting and fairly rare if you don't really know the types, how they work inside, if you don't really understand how the information is exchanged within a person psychological this metabolism system. It is rare. It's rare because extroverts usually we see like how they present themselves, right? Their extroverted functions, but we rarely see their introverted functions, right? And I think this function, what we're gonna look at this piece of video, I think it's really interesting. I'm gonna show you the model later and provide some explanations. Let's have a look.
White shirt. Oh, she's all excited.
So, BBC News Ukrainian.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh.
So my question to you is whether or not the US is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
Clarification. Very interesting, right? He's trying to clarify it. I think this is his extroverted sensing function, right? This is kind of the borders and clarifying, right? So people who has higher sensing, right? They're not afraid to kind of clear up the borders and make sure what they talk about is actually, what we see is what we get, right? So they ask like direct questions. Okay, are you this? Are you that? Right? It's really helps kind of to clarify what's going on.
He's
there now?
Yeah.
Wow, that's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available, They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So,
is that fascinating? A lot of people are, we're talking about Trump, right? They talk about how much he's like, the conqueror, some sort of trying to get everything in, well, kind of, that is true. What also they're missing, it's not the full picture. Right. So what you see here is the inner workings of, regular person. These are the functions, what's called. There are two loops. What do we have? One is the mental loop. Is basically what we think about, right? This is our thought process goes in a certain loop, working through the information. It's called informational aspects, like all these strange symbols. They're called aspects of information. So this is a piece of information what we are processing, all right? And in MBTI, if you're familiar with MBTI, it's called, I believe they call those aspects, they call them functions, right? They have kind of the combined name, right? But in Socionics, which is kind of a cousin discipline to MBTI, there's a separation, right? What is the aspect and this base creative, demo vulnerable functions, they are processing. There's a processing block. This model shows kind of what it's, some of those blocks are big, right? Some of the blocks are huge windows into the world, right? Where we take information from and we put information to, right? And this is not up to scale, of course, because it's mostly kind of logarithmic, I guess. It's 10. It's qualitative, right? So it's difficult to put it in numbers, right? It's supposed to represent what, they're somewhat comparable, right? It's like, imagine you looking like a base function is a huge window and you can see everything clearly, right? Creative will be a smaller window. You can see well through that window, but some items might run away. You might not see everything perfectly. There was some dirt on that window, and a smaller windows, even has some capacity to just see shapes moving, and the smallest function is just the big blurbs of strange things moving. You've no idea. You see colors change. It's like the babies can see the world, right? They don't, when they're born, they don't differentiate faces, right? It's later comes to them. So what they see is, just the shapes changing. So this is very, looks like our first function where we processing information, right? So there's 8 functions, right? The mental loop and the vital loop. The mental loop is how we think. The vital is we don't think about those items unless we're focusing on the information there. It just exists, and we have access to it, right? Sometimes we get from one of the vital functions, right? And it's kind of we're putting into mental blocks to process on the top, right? So Donald Trump he's an ESFP, right? So he's an extrovert. He's sensing, he's feeling, and perceiving type. In Socionics, they like to give some pseudonyms to those. To those types, and they call him Napoleon, right? So is that true? Is it not? We don't have video evidence for Napoleon, so maybe that's true, right? At least the idea of extending and gaining more land and getting more stuff, well, kind of Napoleonic, I guess, right? And people loved him, so maybe that is also true, right? For the leaders like Donald Trump, it's very often is built on the fact what people like him. People actually like Donald Trump, like what he does, right? Not they don't like what he does. No, that's incorrect. They like him as kind of a person, right? And a lot of things we don't know why, right? So if you look at his base function, this black circle means extroverted sensing. So we associate this with words like strength, right? So this is borders, right? The borders, strength, the land, owning the land, right? Which, kind of as the real estate guy is really describing Donald Trump, right? So it's ability to gain more and more, right? That plus sign, that means it's gaining. So the more is better. The more land I got, that Greenland, hello. So, trying to gain more stuff, right? This is his base function. So he sees perfectly the strength of the people. When he surrounds himself with people, he knows who they are. All right. So, but that moment, that process we just saw, right? That clarification is like it's kind of clarifying. Okay, who are you? Like, are you from that, right? He understands. He gets lot of information, right? So it's difficult to kind of pretend strong because the people like Donald Trump, they probing, right? So they're just like, is that really you? They'll be making sure you're fake or not, right? Of course, everything is possible, presentable in certain way, but they like to see, they like to deal with strong people, and they like when a person is strong in first place, right? They like to add him in his team. So based on this plus sign, right, sensing, what we call extroverted sensing, his team would be large. It will be based on strong individuals, right? That's what happens. I want to show the background function, right? The background function is very interesting. You can see it's the same size of the base. So if that means it knows everything. So this symbol It means extroverted feeling. How do you feel extroverted, right? We call this mood. And the mood in the room, right? You come in, there is some sort of atmosphere, environment. You're like, oh yeah, this is going on. Ability to change it, right? Is one thing, right? When you start changing this, right? So you're manipulating all that information, right? And he has background function. He has like 100% information about the environment. When he gets in, this is like if the base function is reactive, right? He's not gonna start with the punch, the discussion. That's not how he's going to. It will start running a bit later, right after he enters the room, let's say. But the background function, it's like it's very tactile, right? Like you're coming in, it's like okay, I got the information without looking. He knows everything, the mood. He reads the room without looking. He just knows. Okay, this is the mood of the room. And he controls it, right? He doesn't allow changes, right? The big changes if it's not him, right? So he prefers to be, you know, like first among equals. And he doesn't allow people to change the mood without his kind of consent, right? He likes to control it. And if somebody is really like destroying the mood, it will activate defensive function. You know, he'll be pissed off about that if there is the big kind of the breakage for no reason, right? Somebody just decide to ruin the party. He'll be upset about that, right? He'll enable his defensive function. But these two functions, these mostly what we see about Donald Trump. We see his base, right? And we see his background function. The background function provides him marketing. It provides him constant PR. He is a PR machine by default without flexing a muscle. Like, no need to worry about that stuff. He's already Trump, right? You can think about it. Like, when you say Trump, do you know how many people look like Trump? Because there are parodies about him, but there is nobody like Trump. Because the people of this type, they will be unique. That base function allows them to make kind of a burn land, like there's nothing is growing around them, right? They like to stand out, but they don't standing up like, hey, I'm on the top, like the aristocrats do, right? He is a democratic leader. What that means is he is looking like he's processing information. He prefers information like one on one. It goes direct. All right, there is no need to hierarchical structures, right? No need to build any hierarchy. In this video we just saw, right? He was equal with the person he was talking to, right? He wasn't trying to do it top bottom, like there's no hierarchy. He always does it in any his conversation. When he doesn't like a person, he brings him up to his level and he's like, okay, let me tell you something right now, buddy. Right? But they're talking on the same level. So in Socionics, it's called democratic, they're rating traits. So this is one of them. All right. So it is how we process information. It's not about, the Republicans or Democrats fights. It is just how a person processes it. It's preference for information on the same level. You can say, like, why is that happening that way? Well, because we're passing a lot of information, between groups, right? He wants to be able to connect with anyone. To be able to connect with anyone, you cannot have hierarchy, right? This gives you an ability. Okay, but let's move on to what we just saw. And this is called the creative function. All right, we don't see this function because for the extroverts, it is an introverted, right? It's introverted information process there. And usually we don't see them. They're doing somewhere in their own place, right? People who works closely with Trump, they see how he does things. There was interesting comment from a guy who went to White House, met him. It's like, okay, this is how Donald Trump is. I want to tell everyone. But when he's exiting, they're asking to sign an NDA. I'm gonna talk about anything we talked here. He was like, oh my God, I want to tell what Trump is, but I couldn't do it. Why? Well, the background function is a controlling function, right? They prefer to control everything what's going on there, right? So he is a master of his own PR. He prefers to do it himself, right? So he kind of cuts it. So people don't really talk about that side too. I've heard about that side from how J.D. Vance explained how he deals with Trump, right? He calls him directly, talks with him, right, on the same level. So this is specifically aspect information is feeling, right? It's introverted feeling. So the information is passed, right? So this is this closed relationship, one-to-one, right? And it is interesting, like the combination of the two, the base and creative function, right, allows, in presence of many people, there's lots of people in the room, there's different aspects, right? He can just move them all aside and create the connection with the person. Right, so this is the superpower of an ESFP, right? Well, NDP, by the way, allows to do that, to change the subject, let's change it up, right? Let's talk in personal moment, right? Like, let's create a personal moment in that space, right? People saw a lot of empathy in that. They saw how what he's able to do. And yeah, this is very interesting. It has the minus sign, so this introverted feeling has a minus sign. What does that mean? Well, that means that it means actually reconstructing, right? So if plus means evolution, so the more the better, let's gain function, right? Let's gain stuff. This one means reconstruction. So he doesn't, as a person, so this is a creative function, this valued function, right? You prefer that, you like it, you create relationship with people. So that means you understand how they work, right? And you not only understand, you value those relationships. At the same time, it has a minus sign, which means he's reconstructing it. So if there is a problem, we saw it with Elon Musk, right? If you need to kill that relationship, he just like chop it off. Why? He'll create a new one. It's not a problem for him, right? It's his creative function. He likes it, right? So he'll go and find it. And what this allows to do is to focus on very specific people. Kind of in his head, he will have this range of people, like starting from zero relationship to lots of relationship, right? They'll be sorted. So everyone will be somewhere there, right? And if needs to be resorted, no problem. We can do that, right? So again, I think the good analogy here is, as a person, lives in a castle, right? You have lots of land around you. You build a moat to protect yourself from any other people, right? You stand out. Everyone's like, ooh, that's Trump, right? You become unique. And if you need, you can get out. How do you get out? You build a bridge. This bridge is specifically this introverted feeling, right, where we can connect with the person, where we can talk about what is bothering us, create this special connection in time. So I hope this was interesting. This showed some, how this is a rare moment. So I hope you guys saw how the inner workings of this metabolistic model works. Metabolistic, is that the right word? Metabolism model. Here we go. How it works. Yeah, if you guys are interested in breaking down, learning more, there's more functions, how they process. There's some explanation, where's that wall coming from, right? Let's take Greenland, where's that coming from, right? There's some explanation in this strange piece, what do you guys see here, right? If you guys are interested, please put a like, and I'll record the video at some point. Have a good one.